Well, hello. Welcome to the Nipigon Ice Fest live virtual 2021 edition. Due to COVID, we are here together. Although virtually, we are still connected. So thank you all for coming. I really, really appreciate it. And kind of going to give you a little bit of a rundown of how it's going to go this year. Well, firstly, I'm Aric Fishman. From the Nipigon Ice Fest, the director of the Ice Festival. I also run Outdoor Skills and Thrills, a guiding company up here in Thunder Bay, Ontario. You may have heard of it. I'd love to take people out climbing and teach them skills, and that's what I do. So pretty much when I moved up here to Thunder Bay, fell in love with this area and stayed and made a life out of it ever since. Immediately went to the Nipigon Ice Fest first year that I got here, and it was incredible, absolutely awesome. A lot of you who are probably watching have been to the Ice Festival or have heard about it. So I'm glad that you could all be here with us today, even though we're not all together. I also wrote the Thunder Bay Climbing Guidebook for rock climbing. It's Thunder Bay Climbing, a guide to Northwest Ontario's best kept secret, which is now no longer so much a secret. A lot of you have heard, seen the book and been here, been traveling through here, and you've seen how epic the rock is. And now that you all know, we don't really have it all to ourselves. But the awesome thing is that people come here and they travel and they love to check it out. And also the ice is absolutely incredible, world class. So yeah, it's kind of not so much of a secret anymore, but that's all right. It's good to share this place with everybody. I also love doing photography and videos, articles, stuff like that. When I had the opportunity to kind of take hold of the Nipigon Ice Fest and keep it alive, there was a year when wasn't sure what was going to happen with it, and I was like, let's keep this thing going. So yeah, pretty much a bunch of years back, I think it was like 7 or 8 years now, just kind of took the reins and got together some people who are super stoked with us today. Some of us you will see today, some of them you will not, kind of behind the scenes. But everybody together, all of us love to make this thing happen, to keep it going for all of you. Just a little bit of a warning, it's the first live event that we're running. So there could be a little goofiness, could be a couple glitches here and there, but hopefully we had everything figured out. In case there is a bit of a glitch, just check back into the comment section, or if something happens there, just look back into the Nipigon Ice Fest Facebook page and we'll post a quick update. But everything should go smooth as butter. So let's see how this goes. Essentially tonight, what we're going to do is have some presenters, which I'm super stoked about bringing to you. They're stoked to present as well. We're going to be doing a bit of a gear auction, some trivia, some fun questions and answers. So while the presenters are going on, you should try to think about some questions that you want to ask them. Even in general, you've probably heard of some of these names and you're wondering how they do the things that they do. So this is your opportunity to really reach out to them as well throughout the evening and ask your questions in the comments and things like that. They're going to answer them. So for now, what we're going to do is I'm going to transition to somebody else, the great Callie, who's going to introduce some other fun stuff.
Hi, everybody. This is Callie here. I, like Aric, have been involved with Ice Fest since the very first time that I went to the festival after moving up to the Nipigon area in 2011. Fell in love with the festival and the ice climbing in the area and wanted to make sure that I could help keep it happening from year to year. So tonight, I'm one of the members of the committee that helps to organize the festival every year. And tonight, I'm going to run some trivia throughout the presentations for the evening. In between some of the presenters, I'll have a few questions that I'll read off. And you guys can keep track of those as you wish. There's a link in the comments of the Facebook live event where you can open the Google document for answering the questions. Or if you wanted to keep track with a piece of paper and a pencil, go grab that now, and keep track of what you think the answer is for the questions 1 through 9. They're multiple choice. The questions are not in the form, just the answers. So you have to be paying attention throughout the evening. I will also recap all the questions once at the very end of all the presentations and at the end of the event. Prizes, there'll be 2 prizes awarded. So the first prize that will be awarded will be for whoever gets all the answers right. And if there is a tie, then we will draw a name from the ties of all the right submissions. And second prize will just be a random draw of anybody who submits their forms by 10 p.m. Tonight. So you have about an hour after the event is scheduled to end to submit that form. And if you make it within that time frame, then you'll be entered into the draw. Our prizes are a couple of North Face hoodies. So there's 1 for each prize. There are also these wonderful new 2021 Ice Fest Nalgene's that will be part of the prize. And as you can see behind me, we have some neck gaiters, and they will be in the prize package as well. So if you were able to scoot over to the chat and find the form, it's also posted on our Facebook page. Or just to get some pencil and a pen, you might want to open it up on your phone as a separate device if you have that option. But I'll wait 10 seconds and then I will read off the first 2 trivia questions. So hopefully folks were able to get a pen or a pencil. So the first question is, when were crampons invented? A, in 1918, B, in 1953, C, in 1980, or D, in 1908. So if you just keep track with A, B, C, or D, then that should help you through the night. Number 2, where is Mount Everest? A, in the Kunlun mountain range in China. B, the Himalayan mountains between the border of Nepal and Tibet. C, the Himalayan mountains between the border of Nepal and India. Or D, the Andes Mountains range in South America. So those were the first couple trivia questions for the night. The next few will be between the first and second presenters after the Q&As. So from here, I will transfer over to another one of our committee members. Thanks, everyone.
Hey folks, we're going to be working our way over to talking about the auction. So I'm Mila, and I'm with the Wilderness Supply as well as the Ice Fest committee. Callie dragged me on board as a committee member a couple of years ago. Historically, with the store, we've just been the bringer of prizes, so that's why I'm going to talk to you about the auction. So as you guys, if anyone who's been to the actual festival knows, our festival usually has a raffle, and that is our main source of income. Without being able to meet in person, we've kind of had to switch that up a bit this year. And so this year we're trying something different, and instead of a raffle, we are going to be doing an auction online. We're using 32auctions.com. The link is going to be in the comments. It's also going to be on our Facebook page. And unlike normal, you don't have to buy your auction item tonight. So you guys are going to have about 2 weeks until March 20th to outbid each other on the awesome prizes that are listed there. So because this is a different format, we're going to go over a few different kind of steps with it so that you know what's going on. So the first thing is, how do you pay for this? So this is going to be online, and through 32auctions.com, your payments will go through your credit card or your debit card through PayPal, basically. And that'll just be a nice, simple way for you to pay for your prizes. The other question, because some of you guys might not be local, is how do I get my prize that I win? So once you win, and at the end of the auction, we'll be contacting you to let you know that you did. But throughout the auction, you can choose when you bid, either to pick it up in store. So if you're local, we're going to be offering it for pickup at Wilderness Supply. You can come in and grab it, or if we're in a further lockdown, we'll still be offering curbside, so we'll be able to get you your prize that way, and there would be no additional charge to do that. If you guys aren't local, but you still want to support the Ice Fest and you still want one of the awesome prizes, you can still bid. We've done a bit of research and figured out shipping rates on most of these items to Canada and the US. So when you bid, you just choose which shipping option you want, and then you can you'll get charged that when you check out as well. If you're getting multiple items, there's a second rate, so you're not going to be charged the full rate twice for each item that you purchase. It'll just be an additional fee to cover the extra bulk and weight of the items. So if you guys have questions about it, feel free to message us on our Facebook page or through 32auctions.com. So before I sign off for the first section here, we're going to talk about our first prize. Our first prize, it's actually two of them. It comes from OPG. They've supported us almost every year that I can remember. And for some reason, every year they bring us snowshoes. And that probably bodes well for you guys this year because there's definitely been a shortage of snowshoes in the market right now. So they've donated 2 separate pairs of outbound snowshoes, and they also include a 3-piece adjustable pole. So you'll be ready for your next snowshoeing adventure once you grab those. The snowshoes are each 36 inches in length. So off trail, so when you're breaking your own trail through fresh snow, approximately that will give you up to 180 or 190 pound weight capacity. If you're on a trail or behind someone else who's already broken trail, that weight rating goes up, and that snowshoe will support almost anyone. So those are 2 great prizes. We're auctioning them off separately, so you can check those out. The value of each of those snowshoes is approximately $115, and I believe we're starting the bidding at $30 on those. So after this event, make sure you go and check that out. And like I said, you have the 2 weeks until March 20th to make your final bid. And now, very shortly, we're going to go back to Aric, who's going to actually get the exciting presenters on the go.
Well, hello, Mila. Thank you so much for that. For those of you who know Mila, you know how absolutely amazingly awesome she is, and Wilderness Supply as well. Absolutely amazing, the support that they show every single year, not just for the Ice Fest, but anything climbing related and outdoors related in this region. So yeah, thank you very much, Mila, for that and for being with us. And as well for Callie, thank you very much. You've been with us like every single year nonstop. I'm absolutely amazed. She's the type of person who goes out and adventures and still knows how to stick her head down and help get work done, which helps put us on track. And I really appreciate everything that everybody does. What I'd love to do, somebody who you guys probably haven't seen yet here at the Ice Festival, but he is absolutely beyond stoked. And I'm super happy to have him here with us virtually for the Nipigon Ice Fest this year. Quentin Roberts, an absolute legend. He's been climbing mountains all of his life. His love for climbing began on the south coast of Wales, actually, where he grew up, scrambling all over the limestone sea cliffs. After finishing high school in south coast of British Columbia, he enrolled in engineering at the UBC, where he climbed more than he studied, like a lot of climbers do, and used his student loans to fund his various expeditions, like a lot of us do, but this guy took it to the next level. Once he graduated, he actually moved to the Canadian Rockies and continued to climb hard routes all over the world, climbing things like 13 plus on gear, soloing difficult north faces, making bold first ascents in Patagonia and Peru. This guy is truly something. Always striving to push the envelope of modern alpinism, both in Canada, internationally, all over the world. Publicly, he's kind of known for his solos, like striving for the moon on Mount Temple, but which he feels actually gives him a lot of release of energy. Privately, among friends and partners, he's known for his tactfulness, strength, and his positive energy. Sponsored by Petzl, La Sportiva, and Arc'teryx. His presentation, which he actually put together specifically for us here at the Ice Fest, very much appreciated. And for you guys, absolutely psyched to present Quentin Roberts with Chasing Dreams in the Big Mountains. Thanks, Quentin.
Thanks, Aric. Hi, everybody. Like Aric mentioned, my name is Quentin. I'm currently living in Canmore, and I'm here representing Petzl. So thanks to those guys. I don't know if I'm not on the screen anymore.
Ooh.
Can you hear me still? Nice.
It's still here.
But yeah, thanks to Aric, Mila, Callie, Chris, and everybody involved with the fest for putting this on. It's such a hard time for us to get our community together. So it's so awesome when we can come together, even if it's virtually like this. So here I'm here to present you a presentation about me chasing dreams in the mountains, mostly just because that's full of tons of rad stories, learning experiences along the way, and just a bunch of cool things that I'd be stoked to share. I'll start off though with a clip that Breathe Light Media filmed of me climbing, or me and Michelle, my girlfriend, climbing on Jacob's Ladder in Golden. And I think it's a really great little clip, so we'll get everybody psyched up, hopefully. Just need to figure out how to do this. There we go. Get everybody psyched before the presentation, why not?
People always say that climbing is about suffering.
It's cold.
It's wet.
It's dark.
And it is scary.
Hope to God that it falls properly.
Our perspective is a choice. The secret is to focus on the joyful moments. Like that moment when you wake up pre-dawn and you realize you've still got 2 hours left to sleep before your alarm. And that first glorious sip of coffee.
The first light of the day, when you stop to turn off your headlamp and take in your surroundings.
Absolute, perfect silence.
The first glimpse of the route.
And the epic game of rock, paper, scissors at the base.
The first few satisfying swings of your tools.
The singular focus of climbing.
When our attention turns to our breath and the delicate dance
Between precision and effort.
The secret is to focus on the joyful moments.
I was muted, sorry. If we could change over to the presentation, that'd be great, and then I'll get going with that. Okay, why is that? Okay, I think that's the best that I can do, but that'll have to do. So I'm here on your computer screen to tell you stories from my life chasing dreams in the mountains. So yeah, post your questions and comments as I go, and hopefully Aric will keep track, and then we can go through a Q&A at the end. But I can't really start this presentation off without giving you a bit of a background. Also, some of my best stories come from the early days climbing. So let's start with that. This was probably my first big route. It's the north face of Athabasca out here in the Rockies. I was living in the Okanagan at the time, and we drove out, and I managed to severely frostbite my toes on it. It was a winter ascent and minus 40 at the base. And I was wearing summer boots. I was young and keen. Just trying to give you a bit of an idea of my mindset back then. It was definitely conducive to making errors. And I'll show you my errors, but if you're squeamish, look away for a sec. Those are my toes. I was in hospital in Kelowna for 3 weeks with that, and I was really happy to have them back. And as soon as I found out I still had my toes, I bought my $450 Pontiac Sunfire and drove it straight down to Yosemite. On the way, my friends painted some racing stripes on it for me, which made it super hard to avoid the rangers down in the valley. But fortunately, when you're up on the wall, they can't really find you. But it was an amazing time in my life, just chasing dreams, chasing lots of rock, traveling all over the place. In the valley, we did the Lost Arrow Spire Highline. Admittedly, I wasn't eating super well. I thought this was, a photo-worthy meal, which clearly means that it was probably the best meal that I ate all summer, which also kind of shows that I probably wasn't eating the best thing. I'm not really eating that much better right now, to be honest. Another thing about food, we climbed Half Dome and ate 36 Cliff Bars on our way up because my partner, Pat, had gotten them for free, and we didn't have that much else to eat. So yeah, over the 2 days that we climbed, we ate all of these Cliff Bars, and I don't think we pooped for like a week and a half after that. Anyways, talking about the early days of my climbing and my climbing in general, I would feel hollow not to talk about this guy, Chris Willey. He was my mentor, a super important person in my climbing. He really helped me to gather my skills, because mountain climbing is all about harmonizing all of your skills. I think much more important is your ability to harmonize the skills rather than necessarily be really good at one or two particular skills in the mountains. So blending them all and moving fluidly with those skills together is extremely important. Chris was really key for doing that. Our first trip was to the desert. I thought we were going to be going and climbing the classics like Supercrack and stuff, but he had other things in mind, and we went down this remote draw and started new routing. This particular route, Coronary Corner, is probably my biggest sandbag ever. We graded it 10 plus, as you can see on the plaque, but I think in the guidebook it's 13 minus 12 plus now because of this section of overhanging ring locks that we kind of neglected to consider. I've tried not to make those kind of mistakes again, but Chris and I kept climbing together after that. We went down to Patagonia together and made the third ascent of the Canadian route on Fitzroy, which is incredible. We didn't manage to free it, so any suitors who can climb 512 on gear should go out there and do it. I was taking huge whippers on the corner. Eventually, Chris told me that I wasn't really, he wasn't comfortable with me doing that anymore, so we ended up continuing on and not freeing it. Paul McSorely, actually, who's presenting later tonight, he made the first ascent of this route with John Walsh. It's phenomenal. Anyway, back to more icy things and a bit away from rock. It was a really, really good time in my life. At that same trip to South America, I managed to solo this spire here that you can see on the left. It was the second ever ascent of the spire and the first in 50 years to the day when I climbed it, and I did a little new route on that ridge line. Also at that time, I climbed my hardest route on gear, Air China in Liming, which is 13D or C. But yeah, wonderful times climbing around the world. This photo on the right actually is an interesting one because I had an experience with Raffle, who I'm sure many of you know, but he's a local legend here in the Rockies. And it turns out we had both scoped this new potential route that we were developing. I called it Fat Tug. And I started developing it top down. I had placed 2 bolts in on the way down, and looked down to see Raf at the base getting ready to climb up, and he didn't look like he was planning on stopping. So I rappelled down to him, and we had a discussion about ethics in climbing and developing a new routing. And Raf conceded and went off left to continue his ground up vision quest, and I walked away with my tail between my legs that day, but came back and finished off that pitch ground up. And obviously the nature of the route is very different than how it would have been, and it was also a very different experience. And since that experience, I've always developed my routes ground up, just because of the journey that you go through. Interestingly, also, Raf ended up climbing a different line, not so much because he wanted to, but because that was where the natural line went. And the line that he originally wanted to climb was the one that I was bolting on rappel, and the climbing didn't actually take you there. So there's a lot to be said for it. Yeah, so this photo, many of you might have seen, but it's also of my earlier days ice climbing. I was climbing on Polar Circus with a good friend of mine, Nick Black, and we were caught in an avalanche. It's Polar Circus on the Icefields Parkway. It's a very, very famous route, and a huge 700-meter ice climb. But I was really lucky to survive, and I hope that my learning on this route was profound enough, and that it'll stick with me. I like to think it has, but you never really know. But for all of you out there coming out west, venturing into new terrain like this, it's really important to be careful. Parks Canada's used this photo lots for their public avalanche awareness and safety campaigns, and if it's helping them spread that awareness, then that's a wonderful thing. Yeah, so around that time, afterwards, you're continuing on the adventure train here. Hang on, let me make sure I'm not running over time, 10 minutes. I went down to South America with Chris again for our second time to Patagonia, and I had probably the most intense experience I've ever had in the mountains, full stop, trying to climb Cerro Torre. We climbed a route called Los Tiempos Perdidos, and we were planning on linking it into Director Aric, which is a fairly new variation to the Ragni route on Cerro Torre. And that would have created one huge sweep of an incredible ice line from the base of Cerro Torre to the summit, basically. Probably one of the more continuous ice lines in the world. But we weren't able to. We climbed to within a few pitches of the top and got stopped by overhanging rime, digging in and not really finding any gear. So we decided to pull the pin. But when we did so, we had planned on going over the summit and back down to our camp, but because we bailed, we ended up going down the west side and planned on going down the west side, and as a result had to do this huge 50-kilometer loop out with only a few bars left. And to make matters worse, on the descent, so here you can see the upper rime that turned us around towards the top of the mountain. But yes, on the descent, night had just fallen and I was pulling the rope and dislodged a rock, which cratered into the side of Chris's head and knocked him clean unconscious. And you know, he went into an amnesic loop. He was repeating himself. He had no idea what was going on, where he was, why he was, where he was. It was, and he was deteriorating too. It was a really terrifying moment, and I managed to, you know, hold him, stabilize him. Eventually, I clipped him through the anchor, and we simul-rappelled to the next ledge I could find. And in this photo, that's Chris on that ledge with his head injury. And we sat there overnight, and it was quite a crazy night, perfectly still. We were climbing in really good weather, and the moon was rising over this huge continental ice cap that goes all the way out to the ocean. But I was in a very strange state of peaceful, calm content, despite knowing that my friend might be dying next to me. But yeah, you know, and I didn't sleep a wink. He had all my down, and I was shivering. But yeah, sure. He woke up the next morning, and he had way more brain power, thank goodness. And we continued on our descent. and hiked the 50K out and round, and made it back to Chal 10. And before long, we knew it, we were stuffing our faces with IPAs at the Fresco Bar. Chris is no longer with us. He passed away a few years ago from separate reasons from climbing. But he will remain forever a really important character in my climbing development in my life. So I'm happy to chat with you guys about him. Anyway, I got back and channeled a lot of my energy into climbing myself. I find that climbing really provides you with so much peace, and it's such a powerful medium for escape, but also connecting with yourself. And so I went and chased some more dreams. This is of me soloing the Grand Central Couloir on Mount Kitchener. Some Americans had managed to climb it before us and push that hole through the cornice. It was really great to get up there and find this escape tunnel like that and not have to dig it myself. Funnily enough, though, you can see I'm wearing that backpack there. I kept it on, and just as I was about to get through the tunnel, my backpack got me stuck on my back, and I couldn't get through. And then I had my feet dangling over the entire north face of Mount Kitchener, just unable to get through. And anyway, I backed off, took the backpack out, shoved it up in front of me. But there was a split moment there where I was ropeless, way on top of the north face, desperately trying to get through the tunnel. But yeah, so since that time with Chris, I've really just been chasing my dreams. I've got 3 main dreams in the mountains right now, and I love it if you guys have any questions about them, but I'll show you some slides of those. This is of the 3 Torres. The left, Cerro Torre, obviously, is where Chris and I went to and had that accident. Just recently, Brett Harrington and I made a new line on the central pillar of Torre Egger, the one right in the middle behind Brett that you can see in the photo. Which is really awesome, but there's still room for improvement on the line and on how we climbed it. So I'm definitely going to be going back at least to that area. As you can see, there's a lot of incredible rock to climb on that photo. The other main mountain dream that I have is this incredible crack that splits that sunlit head wall that you can see. The crack itself is probably 250 meters, and it's barely a thin finger crack, and mostly 513 for the entire crack. And so it's a huge project for me. It's taken the last 2 summers of work to get to where I am on it, and I'm going back this summer. Hopefully it'll just be this summer, but realistically it'll probably be at least this one and the next. But a ton of work for an incredible dream. And then the big dream in the big mountains for now is this pillar, the north pillar of Tenkam-Poche. The top of the mountain there that you can see, so it's the right-hand one, the bigger one in the photo. That's 6,500 meters. And the base of the rock is 4,000 meters. So 2.5 vertical kilometers of extremely steep technical climbing at altitude. And logistically, it's quite the challenge. I was there a 1.5 years ago before the virus.
Well, got some technical issues going on here, I think. So I'm not the one controlling this right now here, trying to figure it out on the back end. Oh,
Hey.
oh, Quentin.
Sorry,
got
I
you
don't know
back.
how
That's
long
all
ago
right.
did I lose. I was just talking to my computer screen
W-
for I don't know how many
Oh,
minutes before
yeah, we didn't hear any of that. No, I'm totally
the
just
whole
joking.
thing.
The whole thing is gone. I don't know. We were just like this for the whole time.
Oh,
No,
I'm sorry. When did you lose me? I can finish it off, or if it was already
right
done,
at
then
the spires at the end there with Brett. It was like I think just a couple seconds before you cut out. Um,
okay.
yeah, go if you go back to your slide, I could tell you
Okay, hang on a minute.
the Saratoga triple spire right after your solo working through
Okay,
the tunnel. Yeah. Oh
there,
baby.
that one.
Oh. All right.
That one.
Back to
Okay.
you.
So I was for this photo, I was talking about the incredible line that I did with Brett. Hopefully, I already talked about it. But yeah, there's tons of potential on these mountains, obviously, and I can't wait to go back. So this area is a big dream of mine. I'm really excited to continue climbing there. Then the other, or one of the other massive mountain dreams that I have is this spire here. It's the minaret, which is a sub-feature of the South Hauser Tower. And the line that I'm trying to climb goes straight up that golden rock that you can see in the middle. It's a small, thin pin scar knife blade crack, and it's 250 meters long of probably 13 plus climbing. So it's taking a lot of work. I'll be going back, and I can't wait about that. And then this is the big mountain dream of mine at the moment. Jesse, Huey, and I are currently planning on going back. I was there 2 years ago, but this is the north pillar of Tenkangpoche. The summit that you can see in the photo is 6,500 meters high, and the base is 4,000 meters high, so 2.5 vertical kilometers of Na. And last time I was there, we made it to within 100 meters of the snow ridge that you can see. So a lot of the logistics have been figured out, but we still have to go back and push it to the top, and I'm really excited to be going back with Jesse, Huey to do that. Anyway, I think that throughout the technical issues, I lost my time there. So that's that. Maybe we can open it up for questions, and thank you all for listening. How did I move towards harmonizing my climbing skills? Did mentors or more experienced climbers play a part? Absolutely. Yeah, Chris in particular really did help. I think it's really just putting yourself into the environment where you have to do that, where you start to realize that you can't necessarily follow a script for everything that happens out there, and you learn to improvise in different situations and draw on the different skills that you have. And being with a mentor or somebody that's more experienced than you gives you the confidence to go into those situations that really push you to harmonize those skills. So that was probably the way that I learned that the fastest. And Chris really threw me in the deep end. My mentor really said, just go figure it out. And then I did. So if that answers your question. So this is from Holly Fleming. How do you overcome fear and mental aspects while climbing? I think personally, I'm very fortunate to have climbed my whole life. And so I don't know if I just beat the fear out of my climbing from a very early age or not. But of course, I'm still scared. And when I'm scared, I really focus on the pick on the rock and the really important things, and that focus that comes from fear is part of the thing that I love about climbing the most. Sometimes when I'm really scared and I don't have the ability to focus and I let the fear get a hold of me, those are the worrying moments when it's actually a concerning situation. And then I just try really, really hard to reel in the focus again. But yeah, those are I think that some people would be better than me at answering questions about fear. I might be one of those people who don't feel it as much as others. how do I want to improve my style of ascent on the route on Torre Ega? So that's from Brent Clark. So it took me took Brett and I 2 main efforts on that. And the first effort, we did it with really dry conditions and we could free climb, but the second time we couldn't. So we climbed the new route free on the first time where it connected with Titanic, and then on the second time we didn't climb it free and still connected to Titanic and went to the top. So the perfect descent would be to free climb the whole thing to the top, and I would like to do that really. Titanic has only been freed by Marc-André Leclerc as well, so it would be really great to free Titanic, or you could potentially climb a new route that would also go free, which would be even better. But that's how. And then also the east face of Cerro Stanhart has potential, and the east face of Cerro Torre has some serious real potential. So with the right conditions and being flexible with your objectives, hopefully that arena I can explore in that arena more. Thanks, Brent. That was a good question. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, Kendra. I do try to show him my biggest respect. Thanks, Brian.
That's awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate that, everybody. And Quentin, that was I was on the edge of my seat most of the time throughout that presentation. And for the questions and answers.
I forgot to talk about, I got caught up in the presentation, but I forgot to talk about, I couldn't remember why I showed that Polar Circus avalanche, but I wanted to talk about the moment when the snow was hitting me and it filled up my wrist cuffs, went down into my jacket, which I had my, my base layers tucked into my pants. So it filled up and I turned into like a giant snowman and up my pant legs. And when the snow finally stopped and I was okay, it was the craziest feeling, like realizing I was fine and looking at myself just absolutely plastered, basically this giant snowball.
Yeah, oh my God.
It just reminded me of it. So anyway, Aric, I'll let you take it off.
Man. Yeah, no, those are the experiences. You're like, it's just unreal, right? It's just things that happen. Yeah.
Learning experiences. In that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I really, really do appreciate you being with us here today. And I'm definitely going to be seeing you, like, you're now out west. I go out west.
Yeah, we'll see you out here soon. Yeah.
Yeah, man. We'll connect. It'll be good times.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. I really do appreciate that. We're going to actually now switch over. Going to do a little bit more trivia, switch things up a bit before the next presenter. So I'll bring it over back to Callie. Hi, Callie.
Hi.
How did you like that presentation? What do you think?
I thought it was awesome. Oh, yeah, I had goosebumps a few times.
Yeah.
Thank you, Quentin and Aric, for passing it back over. So if everybody is ready for their trivia, I also wanted to mention that this is a glow-in-the-dark Nalgene, and you can purchase them if you don't happen to win the prize. So questions number 3 of trivia. Hope everybody's ready and you have your pen, pencil, or device with the Google form ready. Question 3 is, where did the first ice climbing competition take place? A, Russia, B, Tibet, C, Nepal, or D, the United States? So where did the first ice climbing competition take place? Question number 4. Mount Everest is the tallest mountain in the world. Which mountain is the second tallest? So we have A, Lhotse, B, Kinchenjunga, C, K2, or D, the North Face? Which is the second tallest mountain in the world? So question number 5, considered as Canada's highest waterfall, which was successfully climbed for the first time in 2019? Was it A, Takaka Falls, B, Della Falls, C, Niagara Falls, or D, Virginia Falls? considered Canada's highest waterfall and was climbed for the first time in 2019. So that's the next trivia questions. I will ask the questions again at the very end, and back over to Mila next to talk about some more of our sponsors and prizes.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. So our next batch of prizes comes from the store, Wilderness Supply. Once I go full screen, I'll actually show you what the prize is. But the first prize we're going to talk about is a set of crampons from Black Diamond. So these guys retail for $199. It's the contact or saber tooth clip. So it's not compatible with the toe welt, but it does work with the heel welt on it. Again, from Black Diamond, these guys retail for $199. And we are starting our bid at only $50. So again, you'll be able to see these on auction 32auctions.com to check those out. The next prize or auction item also comes from us at Wilderness Supply, and it's the Petzl laser speed screw. There's going to be 2 of these in the package. So 2 screws valued at $74.95. They're both going to be the 21 centimeter screw. So again, laser speed, 21 centimeter. Retail price normally would be $149. And we're starting the bidding on those also at $40. So you'll definitely want to get on those and hopefully get the best price you can for those. The third auction item that we want to talk about tonight comes from us, but also from Petzl. So one of the ways that we kind of support the event is by using our connections with our suppliers to acquire these prizes for the event. Petzl has supported us for many years now, and actually also kind of set us up with Quentin and Paul. They put us in contact with them to get them as our presenters. So we want to send out a huge thank you to Petzl for setting us up with that. And then they are also sending us a pair of crampons. So these are my rentals because that's what I had on hand or nearby. But you're going to be bidding on the Lynx crampon. So the Lynx comes with the toe bail or the option if you don't have the toe welt on your boot. They're adjustable, so they fit almost any boot, have the ABS on them. The Lynx crampon from Petzl retails. We retail it for $279. It includes a bag with it, which is also super handy. And we're going to start bidding on that for only $75. That's our last prize. So for right now. So just remember 32auctions.com to find those. And I think Eric's going to set us up with our second presenter now.
Well, that was my own fault. I'm muting myself. So yeah, thank you, Mila. I just wanted to say those are some wicked prizes. I mean, like for that price right there, let's see what it goes up to. Every dollar goes back into the Ice Fest, so truly get yourselves a deal and also help everybody out here at the Ice Festival to keep it going. Everybody is volunteers who run the Ice Festival, myself included. So yeah, every dollar goes right back into making this happen. So I appreciate everything that you do, Mila. Thank you. Next up, we're actually going to have Kendra Stritch, who's with us virtually from Minnesota for the Nipigon Ice Fest. I don't know if all of you know Kendra Stritch. I'm sure a lot of you do. She has been here every single year, essentially, that I know her. I've been here for a while, and she's been here longer than been here for more than years than I have. That's for sure. And she's well known around the world. Super stoked to have her here with us. She's based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is just over across the border, which is one of the reasons why she's always over here. It's just a 45-minute drive away. She began climbing in 2006. Ice climbing in the winter of 2007 and joined the UIAA World Tour Circuit in 2012. So a little bit of math there from 2006, 2007, that's 5-6 years. That's not that long to be just shooting it up to where she just started in her career there. Cold winters of Minnesota and her passion for climbing meant scaling ice was a logical progression in her climbing. Just like a lot of us here in the North north of Superior area. She does enjoy all disciplines of climbing, but if you know Kendra, you know that she's got a little bit of extra passion for the ice. She made history in 2014, sorry, when she became the first North American to win a stage of the UIAA Ice Climbing World Tour. Historic success arrived on the speed wall in Bozeman, Montana. Kendra takes motivation and inspiration from the support of local and international communities. Passionate about sharing all the aspects of climbing with everyone, you'll find her at pretty much as many festivals as you could think of and gatherings for ice climbers alike. If there's something going on, she's there, like she's here with us today. Absolutely always out there. She's super passionate about introducing more youth and women to climbing and into ice climbing specifically, actually. She's hosting in Minnesota next January an ice climbing festival for underrepresented genders called Dreaming of Ice. She enjoys sharing her knowledge through mentorship and coaching of pretty much anyone who's psyched to learn and have the fun like we all do. This girl loves to get it out there. Kendra usually visits every year, but again, unable to come here because the borders are all closed up. But when she heard that we were going virtual and she had the opportunity to present, it was like, yes, absolutely, I'd love to do this. Truly, absolutely psyched to have Kendra with us here today. And she is absolutely thrilled to share stories of friendship, trying conditions, great climbing from the making of the guidebook Ice Lines, which is a select waterfalls of the Canadian Rockies. I'm sure actually like a lot of you tuning in from out west potentially as well use this guidebook. And well, Kendra over here is part of that. Kendra and Brent, with the help of the community, wrote and self-published this guidebook with absolutely beautiful pictures. That's one thing I always hear, Kendra, is like everybody's always like, these are absolutely incredible pictures. I'm so stoked to always see what's going on here. And it provides a lot of inspiration as well.
Great.
Yeah, so I'll give to you Kendra Stritch with stories from the making of Ice Lines.
Thank you, Aric. I'm really excited to be involved again this year, and also really psyched that Aric and the whole Ice Fest committee keeps the Ice Fest going, because there's been a couple times over the last couple of decades that people have stepped away from hosting, and this group really keeps it going, which is awesome, and I'm very thankful for. So tonight I'm going to share stories, like Aric said, about from the time of making the guidebook. Maybe we can get my presentation up. There we go. Great. So I moved to the Canadian Rockies. I took a job in the Canadian Rockies in early 2010. Took that job to be closer to the ice climbing. And in the spring of 2012, my friend Margot called me up and she said, hey, we're going to drive up to Jasper and do a whole bunch of climbing along the way, because Brent is early stages of working on a new guidebook for the area. And I was like, yeah, I'm in. So there we go. So this is the map from the book that covers the whole area. And so we started I was living in Calgary. We started in Canmore, and the Saturday morning, we drove all the way up to Jasper, and then just east of Jasper to climb in Moline Canyon. And this didn't actually make it as a route in this guidebook, but we did shoot this. And the Moline Canyon is a beautiful slot canyon that has all these natural ice flows that come down the sides. And to get that picture, we strung a rope across the canyon, and Raf Andronowski, one of our professional photographers we worked with, went out there in the middle and hung in space to get that perspective of Margot and I climbing the Queen. So then we stayed the night in Jasper at the historic Athabasca Hotel, and we checked out the Bear's Claw Bakery, which is a really great bakery in town. And so we were also doing some reconnaissance for, listing suggested restaurants and things like that. And then Sunday morning, we headed back down the Icefields Parkway, and we were stopping at 3 climbs. The northmost one is Kirkheslin, the middle one is Meltout, and the southernmost is Bridal Veil there. So it was an ambitious day, but most of the climbing is WI3. It's all multi-pitch. Kirkheslin is the longest one here. And it's 100 meters of climbing, of actual ice climbing, but it has these snowballs, as you can see in the left-hand picture, in between it. And you'll notice that I have a very bright red pants and blue shirt. It was a real warm spring day out. I think that's just a fleece. And you always want bright colors to get the good pictures against the ice and the rock. So we hit Kirkheslin, had a lot of fun, soloing, simul climbing, and then roping, pitching out some of these pitches on it and shooting photos. Then we went down to Meltout, which is also a WI3, a little shorter. It's usually done in 2 pitches. And didn't have time for a wardrobe change or really the climbing clothing to do a wardrobe change. And so these pictures have the same outfit. I do have a belayer hiding behind that rock buttress. And then we drove down to Bridal Veil. And as you can see, we ended up climbing Bridal Veil in the dark because you have to approach down a creek for this. And once we got into the creek, all of the snow was sugar snow with a real light crust on it. So it really wasn't supporting our weight. You'd fall into your hip on these boulders, every couple of steps. But then I discovered that if we crawled, you didn't fall in. So we actually probably crawled a good half mile in and out each way on this, just so that we didn't fall in. There was a lot of giggling, and spirits were good because we'd had lots of good climbing, but certainly on the way out, it was a little more like, why aren't we back at the car? But Raph and Margot were able to stay at the car, and this picture is actually taken from real close to the parking area. This Panther Falls is also nearby. And so we climbed Bridal Veil. It was very snowy conditions too. So we were able to come up the snow. There's some ice below that, but we used the snow. So this is how that ended up looking in the guidebook once we got the guidebook all laid out. And so after this trip, we made it back to Canmore well after midnight that night. And we're able to, we had a lot of fun. So I kind of jumped in on this project with Brent and Raph and a lot of other people that participated. And Brent had the idea that he wanted to do this because the guidebook that was put out by Joe Josephson, that was a pretty comprehensive guide, was over a decade old. You really couldn't get one. They're still really hard to find and coveted. And and I had been traveling internationally a lot at World Cup and ice climbing in Europe and Asia. And, my friends were asking hey, we want to come to the Canadian Rockies. Where do we find information? So we came together with the idea of a select guidebook that would give people enough information on the things that they really wanted to come and climb in a 1 or 2 week trip, or even from the States if you were doing multiple shorter trips. So we came up with a list of routes here, and we wanted to include routes of all different difficulties, and we laid them out from easiest to hardest in this list. And green is pretty easy, WI3 and WI2 climbs. Blues are more moderate climbs, blacks are harder climbs, and then reds are WI6, pretty serious climbs. We also tried to take into account the perennial character of the routes, the length of the climb, and the hazard, not just the conditions experienced on the first ascent, but what were they normally on a normal year. So, and then as we worked through that and getting information on the climbs, I think we came up with a really great set of information and way to convey that. Across the top, you can see we have these 5 icons. The first 2 are the distance and the elevation change on the approach to the climb. The middle one is the aspect of the climb. So this will let you know, does the climb get sun, morning or afternoon, or not at all? So, and the next one is the AITS rating, which is a avalanche terrain rating used by Parks Canada. And so it's green, blue, or black diamond there. So you can easily see what potential hazard is. And then the ice tools are the popularity. So you can also know if you need to go really early or take an afternoon lap, if it's a 3 ice axe popularity, or like this one, 1 ice axe, you're probably not going to see anybody else. And right underneath those, you can see the months there. So red is it's probably not in condition, yellow is it might be good, and green is it's usually good to go, February, March, April for this route. And then you can see next to the parking, the approach, and the route, right above the route, there's cell phone bars. So we also let people know if there was likely to be cell service there, UTMs for locating the approach, and then information about the route and the descent, whether there's bolted anchors or you have to do V-threads, that type of thing. So we collected all of this information for all the routes, and also, had lots of friends that helped us collect it or check it for us. So that information that we were looking at is actually for OC Bocas on Alaire, and it's one of the most northern ice climbs up by Jasper, and you have a beautiful view of Mount Robson, and this is north facing. There was definitely no sun on the route when we went, and this was a really great day out. I was actually able to take this photo of Brent and Kyle climbing and then run over and jump on a rope and climb the rest of the route with them. So that was really fun. I had never climbed this before. But there was other days like this one on Twisted Sister. This was the following season, Halloween weekend. Twisted Sister doesn't always come in, and it's on these slabs, as you can see. And the good pictures of this one were from across the valley or up valley. So I actually spent several hours sitting and moving around taking photos while Brent and Dominic got to climb this route. So I've actually never gotten on this one. Missed that opportunity because I was taking pictures for the guidebook. Another great day out was Kitty Hawk on the David Thompson Highway. And this was a day, we always tried to climb in groups of 3 or 4 so that we had a climbing party and a photographer, or a climbing party with the photographer and then the people being photographed. So in this case, Brent and Raph had climbed ahead of us. And on this top pitch, they had actually left ice screws in too. So just to keep the day moving, on this day, we had multiple routes to go climb. And so Margot and I are climbing up here, and I'm clipping Brent's or Raph's screws. And it's always an interesting experience, especially when you're not the same height as the person who originally put in the screws. And then you're on lead and you're like, okay, well, the screw's just out of my reach, and this is where I want to put my screw. But I think I put in a few extras. But this was a really fun climb and a great day out with friends. Another thing of getting the guidebook, so this is Professor Falls in Banff. And so it's real easy to run to from Canmore, and we climb this a lot. We didn't have many photos of this, and we wanted some specific photos, but it was just Brent and I on this day. So the picture on the left is the top pitch, like the 7th pitch, and the picture on the right is the first pitch. My photo on the right is cropped, so you can't see whether or not I have a belayer, but you probably notice there's no screws in either. So this was a case where, you know, taking calculated risk and to get the photos. And then as you can see on the left-hand photo, Brent, the ropes are just flaked down there. So I got this photo and then eventually did go over and belay him and then climb it to the top. But just something that, you know, did go on in to get these shots. And, you know, we really tried to involve as many people in the community as we can. We worked with a lot of photographers, professional photographers, to get these great photos, but we also solicited a lot of the photos from the community, as well as we asked guides and, you know, experienced members of the community to provide route tips for routes too. So there was a day that Erica Rolls went out climbing, and, you know, this picture got taken of her. And Erica was a few months pregnant, it turns out, on this climb. So we also get to say that Grace is in the guidebook. And Erica gave the route tip that you see here. All of the routes have one listed. And this one was that, you know, to bring a bike and watch the avalanche hazard, as you can see. I also went back through photos of mine from the last couple years before that of climbing. And the picture on the left for Fang and Fist was my friend Euless and we had climbed this. And I had climbed Fang and Fist a number of times before. It's one of my favorite climbs. And this time I was feeling really good and bold, and for some reason I decided to link the upper 2 pitches. So actually pitch 2 and pitch 3. So it's, you know, a good 2/3 of that. I knew that I had enough rope, but I actually forgot to think about screws. I usually carry about a dozen screws or so, and that's enough for most long pitches for me, but not to link 2 pretty steep pillars. And so I got about halfway up the last section and had 1 screw for an anchor. I needed to make a V-thread anchor at the top, so I had to save that 1 screw. And I had, looking down below me at my last screw that's well below me, and it's feeling good, but I like to be at least protected so that I'm not gonna fall off a route or get really injured. So I put a quick draw on my tool and clipped my rope to it. And I never weighted that, but I would then swing to the next tool and clip the quick draw to that. And just in case something happened, if I slipped for some reason or if something knocked me off my feet. It had been snowing quite a bit that day, and there were sloughs that I was worried about. So that's, you know, that was bad decision making from, you know, that I was able to work my way through because I had the skills and had practiced those type of things. But turned out to be a great day out. Sorry here, we're having a hard time. There we go. Now it went a couple slides. So I think one of the more eye-catching, we have many beautiful photos in the book, but I do think I get a lot of comments on this one. And this was a completely unplanned photo that turned out amazing. So my friend Kevin and I went out to climb Sorcerer on a Saturday and went pretty early. We were excited to have it to ourselves. And I'm up on the last pitch. As you can see, it's a nice sustained WI 4 or 5. I would say it was in 5 conditions on this day. And all of a sudden, there's a puff of snow that comes down over my head. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. Maybe the wind's picking up there or something. There is, as you can see in the left-hand photo, there is some snow above that, and there usually forms a wind cornice in the snow up top. And then a big chunk, or not chunk, but puff of snow comes down and is a bit more sustained, and I'm a little more nervous about that, and it's coming right directly on me. So I put in a screw and hang out a little bit and wait it out. And I climb a little bit more, and it happens again, and I put in another screw and wait it out. And I'm like, God, there's got to be somebody up there, but how they didn't climb before us. We didn't see them or anything. And then a pair of ropes drop next to me. And you can see in the bottom left-hand corner of this photo. And then, so I'm like, okay, so there's people that are going to be wrapping down this. And I'm just fuming because they'd been dropping snow on me for like half an hour at this point. And like I'm finished. This is really close to the top now too, and everything. And finally, so I'm just fuming. I'm ready to chew these guys out when they wrap over. And then Frank pops his head over. I'm like, oh, it's one of my friends. So I did, give him a little bit of a hard time. He's like, yeah, sorry. We had to break through the cornice and set an anchor and stuff. And I'm like, come on, it's a Saturday in the prime of ice season. You had to know somebody was going to be on the route. I'm like, so do you at least have your camera with you? Can you take a photo? And he's like, oh, I don't have it, but Mark does. So he yells up, and another guy comes down, and he doesn't have the camera. And then Mark's coming last, and Mark comes down, and we're talking. And finally I'm like, do you have the camera out? He's like, oh yeah, I got it. So he takes this picture. You can see I'm smiling in it. So I've warmed up at this point and remember that I'm having fun ice climbing, and took this other picture too. And then as Kevin and I are walking out, they were climbing back up, and I got to take this beautiful photo on the right of Mark leading the top pitch. So what they had done is climbed hydrophobia, which is the route on the right, and then hiked and walked over the top of the land peninsula there, and then we're wrapping and then climbing Sorcerer, which is the left-hand ice that you see. And then they did actually rappel Sorcerer a second time and then walk back out to the car, which is kind of close to where this photo is taken from. So that's a really big day, a big feat for them. And it was great that they did that. So another aspect of the guidebook that was really fun to put together, and I think is a really great feature, is that we were able to get first ascent stories of most of the routes. And this is one that I wanted to share. We named this route because of a massive water release that hit us while on the last pitch of our first attempt. We had to descend and hike out, soaked and cold, before returning the following week to finish the climb. Frank Campbell. So, and that's for hydrophobia, if you hadn't guessed. So that's my presentation tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I do have some copies of the book here in Minneapolis. Otherwise, they're available across most of Canada in shops. And I'm happy to take some questions now. What are your top tips or tricks for taking good ice climbing photos? One, bright colors for the climbers, and white and gray helmets. We were just out last week and I was shooting some photos, and from a distance, your head really blends in and you have headless climbers. So that, and then trying to get into a position where you're out and behind the climber a little bit, or get into different perspectives, not just top down or bottom up. And you can play with the ropes type of thing too. I've seen some really great shots, like looking up from the belay up the ropes and that type of stuff. But yeah, get into different perspectives. Like, that's the really unique thing about climbing or ice climbing, is that we're in a location that you can't usually be any other time of the year. So use that aspect and get out above the climber if you can. How do the Rockies ice grades compare to Orient Bay grades? Well, you know, the Canadian Rocky routes are a lot longer. So you have to be, if you're multi-pitching, obviously, and you end up, like, hydrophobia has hanging belays, as you can see. And so they're similar, but, you know, Orient Bay has a lot of real steep WI5s, so different terrain, different rock. Looking back on my Rockies career, about what percentage have you and your partners taken Avi gear? Not enough. Yeah. I would say closer to when, so I lived up there for 5 years. Near the end of that, we were carrying Avi gear, and I know that my friends there now are carrying it, you know, on most climbs. But we didn't enough. Top 3 routes in the Rockies. Top 3 routes near Superior. Okay, 3 in the Rockies. We saw 2 of them: Sorcerer and Fang and Fist, and actually probably saw all of them. Professor Falls. 3 top ones. Near Superior. So from the Minnesota side, like, I think Nightfall is an absolute classic anywhere. You have a half-an-hour walk up a beautiful river canyon to a full, like, 63-meter WI3-4, and beautiful, beautiful. And then up into Orient Bay. 10% Real is one of my favorites, and Evil Descends. And well, that's 3 from Superior. Thank you. What's the biggest difference to you between multi-pitch rock and multi-pitch ice? I think, well, the big difference between rock and ice to me is ice, we get to choose our line a lot more. You know, there's usually a line of weakness on the ice, but we don't have to take that. You can go anywhere you want. On rock climbs in general, you're more directed to, you know, where the holds are that you're finding. So I think most things apply to the same for the multi-pitching, but other than you have more decision making on multi-pitch ice. You have to choose where to put your belay. Usually in a lot of the rock climbing, there's an obvious location. Glad to hear it, Quentin. It was designed, you know, another consideration of this guidebook, we did it in landscape format, so that all the information for a route is on one page, so you can take a picture of it and easily see all the information. But also to make the photos look good. So what would you say is the most difficult part of creating a new guidebook? Really getting all the information that all the little details that you need to make it a useful guide, and being aware of what those details are. You know, we looked at a lot of other guidebooks and found things that we liked or didn't like. And then, you know, and it changed as we went through it, right? Like the cell phone thing, we didn't start with that, but halfway through we were like, oh, this would be really helpful. And we're getting more cell service on more of these climbs. So then we had to go back and find out about cell service on some of the others. But I think that's all the little tiny details are the hardest part. Well, I really have had fun sharing this with everybody, and I had a lot of fun making this guidebook. So if you ever need a consultant or help on any of your other guidebooks, reach out.
Oh yeah, that is awesome. Thank you so much, Kendra.
Thank you, Aric.
Thank you. As a fellow guidebook author, I know how hard it truly is and how much work goes into putting something together like that. So
yeah,
really,
what do you think was the hardest part?
Oh, what do I think was the hardest part was, well, you know, okay, so like compiling all the info and all the photos and stuff like that, that took years of work. But I think the hardest part for me was to sit down and put this thing together, like to write it all, to put it all into the document that it's in, because that meant that I couldn't go outside and actually climb, right? So there was like finding a balance, and in the end I was like, I have to just sit down and type for 6 months straight until this thing is done. So I think that yeah. But my goodness, yeah. And you're here all the time, like as often as you can be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been hard not to be able to get up to Nipigon this year and the Canadian Rockies, but we've been trying to figure out, you know, if we could paddle the lake up there.
Yeah, get across. You should dive under. We were talking about like getting you, like, what was that favorite food that you always would come out there to
the
get?
all dressed potato chips.
All dressed chips.
Yeah, especially the ones from Superstore. You know.
Oh yeah, they're key. Absolutely. Sure. I don't know if you ever seen the show Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like they like took a train across the border. I was thinking of like getting a remote control boat and like boating you.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll see if we can do that because you're so close.
I know.
But COVID restrictions. We
soon.
gotta do what we can. Yeah. As soon as we can, we will be again together. Yeah. But thank you so much for being here with us, answering those questions. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now what we're actually going to do, give me just 1 second here. Sorry, I just got to switch something up. Right. What I was switching up, sorry. What I was originally going to do was announce a photo contest winner, but I'm going to switch something up a little bit here because I like to do that. I like to, you know, keep it all fun and jazzy. So I started noticing a bunch of people were posting and tagging for the My Local Ice, hashtag My Local Ice photo contest. And at the start, not many people were posting. And then towards, we were going to announce the winner today. And like a lot of people are starting to post. So I figure with the season continuing to go on for a little bit longer, why not keep this going for another week? Because I love to see all the photos that people are throwing out there, and I'm going to keep sharing them and stuff like that. So for one more week, we're going to keep the photo contest going. The prize, the reason why you should all do this, aside from sharing the awesomeness that you're doing out there, which, by the way, I should side note that you should all be abiding. We should all be abiding by the COVID restrictions. of your areas, wherever that may be. People could be watching this from wherever in the world. So, but in any case, stay safe and keep your distance. The masks and stuff like that are all great ideas. Sanitize. But in any case, if you're out there, or if you were out prior to a lockdown or something like that, post your photos. Hashtag #MyLocalIce and tag Wilderness Supply and Outdoor Skills and Thrills in your post. And you'll be entered for a $100 gift certificate to Wilderness Supply, which is amazing because who doesn't want some super cool, awesome outdoor stuff? Whatever you're into, you can get it there. So essentially gonna not reveal the photo contest winner quite yet and keep it going over to our next presenter, who I am absolutely super thrilled and honored to bring here today, Paul McSorely, who's virtually with us from out west, to be here with us for the Nipigon Ice Fest. And Paul, we've connected quite a number of times over the years. Unfortunately, we haven't met yet, but that's going to be happening quite soon when I head out west for a trip. But Paul's always had a drive and psych for Thunder Bay. I'm going to be asking him later where that psych and drive came from for this region. But I know that his drive in general from climbing comes from the unknown of each new route and the camaraderie of the friends that join him along those journeys. So I figure maybe that has something to do with it. But Paul, he's a longtime climber who began his journey on the rocks of Southern Ontario, just down in Southern Ontario below us. And he's traveled around the world, opening first ascents on rock, ice, and in the Alpine on 5 continents. It's quite a bit. A guide with the Association of Canadian Mountain Guides, a high ropes rigger, and a multi-talented mountain sports savant. Paul would always rather have no information and go on the journey of discovery. My kind of guy. Lives in Squamish, BC, playground out there, where there's a lifetime of new routing, pretty much walking distance from his home. I personally, and I hope all of you truly can't wait for his epic presentation, which showcases winter climbs from the Arctic Circle in Norway to the icy walls of Scotland and Patagonia, and in the west coast of BC. Some of you might be thinking, wait a minute, I'm not sure about ice on the west coast of BC. Yep, that happens. Followed by questions and answers period later. So make sure that you type in those questions into the comments below, and we'll get to that later. And with that, I'm honored to present to you Paul McSorely with Coastal Ice from Arctic to Rainforest.
Hey,
Paul.
Thanks so much, Aric, for the intro, and so happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me. It is my first time to the Nipigon Ice Fest, and yeah, I do have some roots in Ontario. I've climbed rock there in Thunder Bay, out at Claghorn and Silver Harbor and the Taj Mahal back in the early days. So yeah, some of my friends that got me into climbing went to Lakehead, so they kind of took me there on a couple tours, and man, I love it up there. So I can't wait to come for the in-person fest next year.
Yeah. So
yeah. So I guess here we go. I'll fire up this presentation, and I hope you guys enjoy. It is right here. Can everybody see that? All right, give me a verbal, will ya? Can you hear me, bud?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you. Can you see the page?
I couldn't. Give me 1 second here.
It might take a second, but it's on.
Okay, cool. Let's just give it a couple seconds. Maybe if we can go back to Paul's screen there.
Pretty sure I pressed share the screen. I'm going to share the screen again here. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
And share screen. Yeah.
Click the button.
It's happening. It is all happening now.
I see it happening. Okay, here we go. Okay, 1 second. Give me a second here. There we are.
Yay.
It's all you, buddy.
Okay, here we go. So yeah, my presentation is about coastal ice, which is my current favorite style of ice. Yeah, I'm going to talk about areas from the Arctic Circle to the rainforests of my village right here in Squamish. And yeah, it doesn't really matter whether you're climbing in the rainforest or out in a fjord. This is the beautiful Lofoten Islands in Norway. Yeah, the funnest thing about ice climbing is the freaky people that you get to hang out with. You know, you're a little bit unhinged to begin with if you're an ice climber, which is great, right? That's why I love these ice festivals, because you really meet some special people. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but clearly this guy couldn't be more psyched. And the one thing I think that's great about ice climbing is that men and women around the world practice it. You know, from Iran to Argentina. And I heard this winter they were having their second or third ice festival in India, which is super cool. And I really want to applaud people like Kendra, who are kind of making strides to invite more people into this very esoteric activity and welcome them, you know, from more diverse backgrounds and people who you don't see as often out at the ice crags. So bravo to you, Kendra. It's super great initiative, and I think that festival's such a really well-intentioned, such a great spirit. So thanks for doing that good work. I look forward to hearing how it goes. Here's one of my favorite people who ice climbs. Her name is Ines, and she's an old friend of mine. We're up here in Lofoten last winter, and she's a real inspiration to me. Ines is kind of one of the most badass ice climbers, period, kind of gender irrelevant. Here she is dropping the hammer. It's actually, she's at the top of the cliff there. She made the first ascent of this pitch, which by modern standards isn't super hard, but it was like a ground up kind of M9 and change with really ratty gear, super delicate ice. In fact, this guy Maciek, who's a badass Polish climber, he popped off this thin little ice section. But Ines is a real inspiration to me. Her climbing style is obviously, you know, one of the finest, and she's really fun around happy hour too. But she was my first inspiration to go with a crew of friends to Norway the first time, where we went to the island of Senja, and we were there to repeat some of her lines, which are still unrepeated because she's so badass. It's my buddy Johnny Red and Jesse Huey here, Johnny Walsh on the left and Jesse Huey getting stoked. This is a beautiful mountain called Breitinden, and it's not very high, but it's about 1,000 meters above the ocean, right out of the screen there. And Jesse and I went ahead and climbed a route on the left side of this wall, made a first ascent up that left-hand line. On the right side is Ines's route called Fantasia. And actually her route's called Crazy Maze, and then in the middle is Fantasia. And we went ahead and put up the route on the left at Ines's recommendation. Here's Jesse on the line. It was super quality climbing, really thin ice the whole way. This is him getting in kind of one of two pieces on this whole 70-meter pitch. Super run out climb, but really, really good quality. Not too hard, but really fun and pretty questy and pretty good sized. Here's Jesse commenting on when we topped out.
Okay, Jesse, where are we here, brother? Oh, buddy, we're top of the Scottish Wall. Just in a probably new route, and yeah, what? So this is a new route. What are you gonna call it, Jesse? Ooh, I got one name picked out. Go on, and that is the Ice Princess. Ow! That was cold as ice. Look at this fucking scene from the summit of Brighton, the highest peak on Senja Island. Here we are above the fjords. Ice Princess. Ice Princess. Aptly named. Oh, man. We got a long way to go. Those dueling mountains, that's where we got to go home to. We got some work to do. All right, signing off from the summit of Stoked, man.
Yeah, Jesse was just in a bad relationship before this, so that helped name the route. The Ice Princess, his relationship ended poorly, and it resulted in him coming on this trip. So kind of a tough name, but a suitable name. And again, this wall was called the Scottish Wall, and you know, Scotland's got quite a reputation. Whoops! And I thought I would take a quick trip there and see what all the hype is about. You always hear of Ben Nevis being so badass, and I was like scratching my head saying, really, is this thing that awesome? It's like 1,000 meters high. It's this little mini putt wall. But I went there with a few friends from Canada, and we basically got served there. And along the way, we got some fun climbing in, but we learned some really Scottish lessons. Here's a little video trying to be Scottish.
How are we going there, Mark? How many more pitches have we?
I'd say we have 2 more.
2 more? You reckon, eh?
2 more rope lengths.
Oh man, not making fun of the Scottish people at all. They're super sweet. This guy was a local kind of sender and showed us around, super sweet. Ben Sylvester, he's actually from the UK, but he's a regular there in Scottish winter. But you know, the Scots really pioneered the genre of winter mixed climbing, and they even went so far as to kind of modernize our ice tools. So what you have in your hands these days, what passes for ice tools these days, is a direct descendant of these beauties right here, and they're known as the pterodactyls, or originally called the peg. And before this, ice axes were wooden, and the state of the art was, you know, the Chouinard Zero, which was a wooden shafted axe, and they would break on the rugged walls of Scotland. So Hamish McInnes, who just died in the last year, he developed these metal shafted axes, and they're basically what we're using today is the direct descendant of these beauties. These are on the pub, by the way, in the wall of the pub in Glencoe. Here's just a shot of some of the climbing. It's really like sumo wrestling with Gore-Tex on. You're just getting beat down in these, you know, Scottish icy corners and cracks. And I actually took a huge whipper. I've never fallen on ice in my entire life, but I did it twice in Scotland. Here's just a little bird's eye perspective of what it's like to be on one of these wild pitches.
How's that?
Just feel them freezing up.
Do you think that your haircut of last night helped, or?
Honestly, it's not hanging away and being all bushy. It was getting kind of wet and stuff last week.
You can see here, Ian's just kind of battling in gear. You got to pound in your protection, whether it's a hex or a stopper. You rarely get ice screws, but once in a while you can fiddle one in. But here he's just hammering in and excavating, trying to get some gear. It's a total battle. I mean, it takes up a lot of the climbing, but it's generally can get pretty good protection. But it's half the challenge.
Right on, Ian?
Oh yeah, that'll have fun, eh?
Yeah.
All right. Pretty frosty vibe there on this climb that's called the Unicorn. It was a Scottish grade 7. I have no idea what that means. It was hard though, hard enough. And here's just a really solid example of what the weather's like there. So a standard day out of climbing in Scotland looks like this.
Conditions are rugged. So rugged. Amazing.
I actually got caught in an avalanche after this. There was way too much snow building up. So after we completed this climb, we kind of bailed down the gully and popped off a little slab avalanche. So yeah, it's not mini putt in Scotland. It's full throttle alpinism on a really small cliff. You know, only a 100 to 200 meters. Some of them are 300 meters high, but super impressive. And the only other place I've ever seen such horrendous weather is this place right here, which is the beautiful land of Patagonia. This is my buddy Kurt. He was digging himself out of the snow cave, and the storm was pretty ferocious. You can see he's kind of seen God in this photo. It's a long story, but don't be afraid to ask. It's not always nasty weather in Patagonia. Here's my buddy Tony chilling at the base of the one and only Cerro Torre. And sometimes, yeah, you're getting beat down full weather, and some days you're suntanning in a t-shirt. And yeah, we had the pleasure of climbing this gorgeous mountain. This is the one that Quentin actually talked about. This route, it was put up this day. So we climbed the regular route, the Ferrari route, or the Rani de Lecco route on the west face of Cerro Torre. And these brothers, there was actually two dudes and a gal from northern Argentina that put up this Directa de Huarpe, which is a nod to the indigenous peoples of their region. And one of the protagonists, the guy at the belay there, El Indio, kind of has some heritage in that line. So they kind of honored the locals of northern Patagonia with this line. And you can see the climbing here is just, feels like you're on another planet. And I'm giving this credit as coastal ice because in the background there, behind Tony's orange helmet, you can see the coast of Chile. There's fjord lands there. And the only thing that separates you is about 20 miles of pancake ice cap, and then it drops into the ocean. And yeah, magnificent place to go climbing. And I always just liken it to being in some sort of a hallucination or in a Salvador Dali painting. These mushrooms are just an amazing atmospheric condition, the rime that forms because of the coast that rips across the ice cap and slams directly into these beautiful towers. Fantastic place to go climbing. Recommended. Right here in the province where I live, in our own country of Canada, we also have rimed up towers. This is the mighty Mount Waddington. You guys may or may not have heard of it, but it kind of comes into condition a lot like Cerro Torre does. It's just there's no lineup to get on it. So put that one in your pipe and smoke it. This is my village of Squamish, BC. I've climbed all over the place. I've done some ice in Ontario, Southern Ontario, lived in the Rockies for 10 years. And now I kind of consider myself in retirement on the coast because it's so mild here. We barely suffer. I know Kendra was and Quentin too, were talking a little about the discomfort of being out there ice climbing, but it's really pleasure climbing here on the coast. The temps are rarely much below zero. And when the ice comes in, it's for a really short period. And it ends up being beautiful. We also get nice goulot style ice, neve and plastered snow that just kind of sticks to the rock and makes for really fun climbing. Here's a local project still that we have been working on for a bunch of years. Still haven't climbed it. I'm up with this guy here on the lead. He's a local legend of the coast. His name's Bruce Kay, and he's retired from ice climbing now. Every time I call him to go out, he's like, "Oh, the only ice I want to have is in my scotch, so forget about it." But he definitely inspired a generation and put up tons of cool new routes and kind of set me on a bit of a path to quest up some of these unclimbed walls in the Squamish slack country. We got all kinds of stuff here. Canyons full of this pretty ice. Pillars, which are super beautiful up against the gorgeous granite that we climb on in summer. Some multi-pitch too. This was just about 10 days ago. I put this route up with a couple buddies, Tim Emmett and Sam Eastman. We kind of waited for conditions to come in. They never really were right, but we blasted up here anyway and put up this beautiful 3-pitch, kind of pretty fragile grade 6 climb, and it was kind of the highlight of the season. So yeah. Magic coastal ice. And here we are right by the sea. This is also just about 2 weeks ago when we had our short little spell of good ice climbing. We're climbing here in Shannon Falls Provincial Park. It's not very far from the ocean, just a stone's throw away. We walk right down to the sea after this climb was done. Super thin. You can see how thin it is, and stuff doesn't last very long. Probably stuck around for about a week or so this year. And I'm going to finish up by talking to you guys about kind of one of my favorite climbs I've done of all time. It was a climb on the Chief, and one year, about kind of 4 years ago, it froze up completely from bottom to top, and we were able to climb to the summit of the Chief on all ice. It was just out of this world. Some of you guys have been visiting to Squamish can recognize up in the right-hand corner of the screen there, the classic Squamish buttress. You can see the headwall cracks have been all buffed out from lots of traffic. And we're over here on a variation to a route called the Ultimate Everything, which is another super fun way up the Chief. But there was all kinds. There was neve, there was ice, but we put in screws on every pitch, and that was about 12 pitches, something like that, of really fun climbing. Grade 4, so super accessible to everyone. Nothing super hard, but sometimes a little thin. Here's my buddy Jai Condon. He's another coastal legend. If you ever have read an Alpine Journal, you've seen his name back in the day, climbing all over Western Canada and the Yukon. Yeah, just a wonderful day out, and I feel like the stars aligned for us to kind of make the first descent of this route, and we've been watching it as it formed from Tony Richardson's from the balcony of his house. And yeah, we just went and got it. And as you can see, the positions above the fjord are sensational. And it was just a gorgeous day out. Here's a quick vid of the day.
Have you ever kissed the sunshine? Walk between the rain? Well, just climb up on my music, and my songs will set you free. Well, just climb up on my music, and from there jump off with me.
Can anybody believe what's happening right now?
Well, there was a girl.
And yeah, it was super unbelievable. Between the three of us in this photo, Jason Kruk, Tony Richardson, and Jai Condon and myself, we have about 100 years of climbing experience between the four of us. And all of us agreed it was one of the funnest climbs ever. I think a lot of it has to do with, you know, the good company that you're in, but it was just such a nice thing to be able to do locally during a really short good weather window. And I think in the end, you know, it's really all about getting out for a nice day on the ice with your buds. And speaking of good friends, this is these are the Mendenhall Towers. Yesterday, we celebrated the life of Marc-Andre. He died here, putting up kind of the most stunning line up the central part of this mountain. 3 years ago, yesterday, they topped out, and they were on their way down and perished, rappelling the route, whether it was from cornice failure or anchor failure. Nobody will ever know, but it was a very tragic thing. So obviously, ice climbing super serious, but in the end, you know, it's really all about the friends you keep, and you know, the doing is not as important as who you do it with, I guess. So here's just a final little note from Mark about coastal ice.
Hey, Mark, what's going on here?
Just about to start our first Scottish mixed route.
How's the Nick?
The Nick is good. Puking snow. It's not too windy. It's sort of cold. Yeah. It looks like winter, so it must be winter.
Yeah. How's this ice above us look?
Oh yeah. Looks a Nick. Coastal Nick.
Coastal. Thank you.
Yeah, Nick means condition in Scottish. It's everything's in good nick, or it's not in nick. But anyway, that's all I've got for you. Coastal ice. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Kendra, first question, right? Just like that, hey? Can you guys hear me? Yes. Most unique part that makes me seek out coastal ice climbing. Man, I honestly think like the kind of here today, gone tomorrow makes it really special. Things just fall down, you know, within a week of forming here, and kind of like that Chief climb, it's never come into shape before that anybody knows about. And yeah, it's pretty special to tag these things while they're still in. And yeah, like I mentioned also, I like the mildness. It's not as sufferous as the Rockies. It's really mild here, so it just makes it pleasurable. Brent, how do you manage to get through the rime and mushroom on top of some of these? Oh yeah, that's a great question. So like Quentin, when he was up there, they got shut down because there was so much rime, and you dig and you dig and you dig to find solid ice, and sometimes you just don't hit it, and there's no pro, and you just can't do it unless you're willing to kind of go for it. Some people use these wings that are about yay big, so size of my head, that you can bolt onto your tools, and they're meant for climbing rime. So they're kind of a specialty item, and you kind of, you know, they have them down there in Patagonia. You can just ask around. But once some parties have climbed these routes, or just depending on the conditions of the year, there's often a way through. But when we were climbing up there, we did 2 of the mushroom summits that year, Standhart and Torre. We made the first descent of the season on Standhart, and we were just kind of clearing a bit as we went, and we were able to get a few screws in the back. It was just a good year. It wasn't too snowy the previous winter, so we were able to kind of climb up. It was like a half pipe, so you're just standing on either side, and there wasn't much pro, but you know, the odd piece. And then on Cerro Torre, you're actually climbing through a tube. You get tubed, which is mind blower. So it was about 2 meters wide, and sometimes you're stemming, and for the final bit, you just like, it's out of this world. And you know, people had climbed it a bunch that year, so whether or not the first party had to tunnel through or not, I'm not sure, but from year to year it depends on the conditions. So definitely it's always hardest if you're the first party up there, but it's a lot of work. It's a big battle. You get soaked. Whoever leads gets soaked, and sometimes it shuts you down. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. Oh yeah, good question, Kendra. Yeah, you know what? We did use a couple bolts. So I put in bolts at a belay, and then Tim led the next pitch, which was a super fragile, unconsolidated, free hanging pillar. And he put in 1 bolt. He was mixed climbing on the side, drilled a bolt. We have a little small drill, and he used that for protection to get onto this free hanging pillar. And the rest was screws. You know, wet ice, as you know, it doesn't take very good protection. So you kind of pump it in and pray and just keep charging. But thankfully, when the ice is so wet, it takes good sticks. So you're climbing steep, fragile, wild ice. But the protection, it's not always that great. But we did use 1 bolt for protection, and 2 bolts at 1 belay, and then I put in 1 bolt up higher for another belay. But I think I used a Spectre as well on the first pitch, which was like a mushroom feature. There wasn't a lot of gear, but I remember pounding it in just as I topped out. So little mixed bag, but mostly not fantastic protection. Oh, there we go. Oh. Ha ha ha. Thanks, Quentin. So great.
Super awesome. Thanks, Paul. Oh man. Awesome. That was really awesome, dude. Yeah, like, so I've been to Squamish quite a bunch of times, and I never even considered, like, all I've heard is, yeah, it's so warm, it's always raining. And in the off season being rock, not the rock season. And then when I heard about you years ago is when I started to actually realize, oh damn, there's like stuff out there. Just curious, and like seeing through your presentation how awesome this year looked for just a quick go at some random lines that come out. You say like 2 weeks, that thin sheet that was just a couple weeks ago, that was like 2 weeks it was in, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and it's so gone now. Like Shannon Falls is pumping like Niagara Falls right now. So there's zero ice left in the valley, but at higher elevations there is some sneaky stuff. But
right, yeah. So like the stuff that I guess you could look from your house and see what's going on the Chief, but then you also know about some of the backcountry areas maybe that are good to check out. Mm-hmm. Would you say that how many times in the last decade that you've been there, let's say, has something like that formed up? It's not often, right?
Every year we get ice.
You do.
Every single season. Like last year, I want to say we had about a 6-week window of ice in Squamish, so it was quite good. We were able to put up a route that never formed up on the North Walls, which was super sweet. But literally every year, so I travel a bunch, and I kind of like try to time my traveling so I can be there for that window, and sometimes I even go home early so I can
just to hit that time.
I'd say anywhere from like this year, really, the valley ice climbing was in for 1 week or 8 days max. And then typically it's maybe 2 weeks. And then those great years are 6 weeks. And apparently in the 80s, Shannon Falls would be frozen for 2+ months. So that's a super high volume waterfall. And that was in the 80s, though, it was always, climate change.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, so you're out there near the coast, so you probably, do you notice that there's any kind of noticeable difference in the seasons? Or is it kind of...
When I first moved here, I was like, this place is terrible. It rains starting in November, and it rains through until March. But I think if you just wait for that little window, it's good to go. And honestly, I haven't noticed. Some years are drier. Some seasons in the summertime have been raining all summer long. So I just feel like it's a coastal thing. And I think it really depends on the currents. Like this year's a La Nina year, so we've had tons of snow, but not a lot of cold. So I think it depends on the ocean currents a lot.
Yeah, that's very true. And it is good to get the conditions when they're right. Have you climbed the ice here in this region? Yes,
never climbed in T-Bay, only rocks. So I cannot wait. I've climbed in the Upper Peninsula in Lake Michigan area. Well, it's not Lake Michigan; it's still south shore of Lake Superior. But I've never climbed in T-Bay, so I'm super psyched. I see all these photos that you guys have. Super cool.
Yeah. It's just a playground. Well, normally it's like -40 though for like 3 months straight. This year it was unique where we've had like a super warm year, which is very comfortable, but all the ice is quite thin in general. We have a lot of ice to go around. But yeah, like 1 year, hopefully next year you can come. And I was wondering, I got some like
awesome tool.
Yeah, right?
The Quasar was revolutionary. It changed the game. Before that, we were using Black Prophets, which had a bent shaft, or the Pulsars. But that Quasar, yeah, there they are, the multi-shaft. I've had those. And before that, I had the worst tools ever.
Which were?
Quasars were game changer. Yeah, that's a Piranha, Simone.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Here, this was the most revolutionary one of its time.
Oh yeah, that's is that the Salewa or something? People use those still. When I started climbing in the Rockies as a third tool, I remember seeing Jeff Marshall using it to like we didn't have express screws back then, so he would like tap out a hole for his ice screws, and that would be his starter tool, and then even hammer them in if he was using a Snarg or a Warthog.
Because these are, this is like it is a hammer with a pick end on it. So I could just imagine, like I've played around with all these tools out there, and I've always tried to picture one day I'm going to go on a like retro day where I truly take up all this stuff. But
those third tools are crucial, right? You used to break picks a lot more back in the day, and it was nice to have an extra tool on hand.
Yeah, I guess so, right? Well, thank you. I really do appreciate you being here for the virtual Ice Fest. Hopefully next year that we'll have you here with us, and I'll probably come see you out west sometime this rock season, my friend.
Please do.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for having me.
And we're actually now going to go back to some trivia. So on to Callie.
Thanks, Aric. Great presentations, Kendra and Paul. Thanks so much. That was awesome. Super exciting, and get you all excited for climbing in various places around the world again when you get to listen to people's adventures like that. So awesome. So everybody, hopefully you're ready. We've got 4 final questions for the trivia. So I'll read out the questions and the options. And at the very end of the night, I'll just read out the questions one more time. So question number 6, in what year was the Nipigon Ice Fest first held? Was it A, 2000, B, 1981, C, 1986, or D, 1995? Question 7. What is the name of the area that makes Nipigon and Greenstone a world-renowned ice climbing destination? Is it A, Kama Cliffs, B, Lost Falls, C, Orient Bay, or D, Lake Nipigon? So what is the name of the area that makes Nipigon and Greenstone world-renowned? Number 8, who revolutionized the design of ice axes in the 1960s? Was it A, Yvon Chouinard, B, Jean-Luc Godard, C, Francois Truffaut, or D, Martin Conway? So who revolutionized the design of ice axes in the 1960s? And number 9, last trivia question. Which of these ice climbs at Kama Bay is photographed the most every year? A, Getting Oriented. B, Icebreakers Arete. C, Powerline Falls, also known as Mazukama Falls. Or D, Grande Marty Falls. So hopefully you guys caught all those trivia questions. I will, like I said, read the questions only one more time at the end of the night. All the answers are found in that trivia form that was added to the chat at the beginning and is on our Facebook page. And if you submit by 10 p.m., then you will get put in for a draw for one of the prizes. And if you happen to get all the answers right, you might be the one and only and be the other winner of the second prize. One other thing while I have everybody, our awesome committee member Mila makes amazing face masks and used one of our neck gaiters to turn that into a mask with 3 layers of material, and it has non-woven polypropylene in the middle and it has metal. Anyways, I think you guys should all put something in the comments if you think she should make a few for our auction because they're pretty awesome. And now we're going over to Mila, I think.
All right, thanks, Callie. We'll see if the peer pressure works and if I have to add those to the auction afterwards. To finish up our auction information, we're going to go over some Ice Fest merchandise that we have here. So this year, we did a temporary update on our logo, as you guys have hopefully already seen. In lieu of COVID, we kind of threw a face mask on our logo just to show that this year was a bit different. To share that with you guys, Callie already showed you once the Nalgene's that we have on the go. So we had a bit of a discussion during our meeting as to what color to go with. And in the end, we decided to go with Glow Green. Glow Green is our best-selling color at the store. And yes, it does glow in the dark. So it makes a great nightlight, or so that, you know, you can always find your water bottle in the dark. These guys are listed for $20 on the auction site. If you have a Nalgene or have 100 Nalgenes like a lot of us have, but you still love the logo and want to, you know, show your support with that, we made some stickers. They're awesome vinyl quality stickers, so you can use this on your Nalgenes, on a laptop, on your bumper if you so chose. So $5, and those are also on our auction site under a buy now option. And then lastly, you've seen them before, our neck tubes, neck gaiters, whatever you want to call them. They're super functional. I think you can wear them at least 35 different ways if you get creative. At $10, these are a steal for a neck tube. So these are also on that buy now option that you can purchase at any time. So all 3 of those items are going to support the Ice Fest with every purchase that you make. So one last prize that we actually, our auction item we have listed. That one comes from our host, Aric, with Outdoor Skills and Thrills. As Aric mentioned, he's also the author of our guidebook, Thunder Bay Climbing. And he is giving us or you guys, whoever wins, a privately guided adventure. So this means it's your chance to check out or to check off the bucket list climb off of your list. So if there's a climb you have, you wanted to always do, but you weren't really sure of the access, or you weren't sure that you wanted to do it by yourself, this is a great opportunity. It's a one-day adventure it's a one-day adventure guided by Aric. This package, which includes a gear rental, is normally $250. And on our auction site, we are going to be starting the bidding at $75. Now, earlier today, we had a last-minute addition to our auction. It was today, though, when we just weren't quite able to get it up on our website yet. But Sean with Superior Exploration is also going to be donating an experience to our group. And that is going to be a guided trip on Stratosphere, a new climb in the Algoma area, I believe. So those are all of our auctions. That item is going to be up on Monday. Everything else is already up on the site. After we end today, it's going to be, the link is going to be put onto our Facebook page so that you can find them immediately and start bidding on it. And like I've said before, you guys have 2 weeks until March 20th to outbid each other for each of those prizes. So we hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you enjoyed this and that you'll continue to support the Ice Fest by checking out our auction that we have. Now I think we're going to go back to Aric.
How's it going? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Awesome. Before you leave there, Kaiser was asking, I'll just pop this in. Maybe you can help me with this. Ice Fest t-shirts. So there's a whole bunch of different t-shirts that we have in general, like from different years and stuff like that, right? Red one, we got the one that you're wearing, we got blue, stuff like that. So what do you think? I think we're, in general, are we selling them this year?
So we weren't going to do it yet, but if he wants to contact us, I'm sure we can find a way to set him up with one of the t-shirts.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, and in general, I think what we're going to do is we're going to try to figure out, we're going to get together all the different ones and put them on as well for sale as well with the neck tubes quite in general. So that people, if they want, they could just get them anytime that they'd like. They don't have to wait until Ice Fests, especially considering, hoping that this isn't going to go on for much longer, but who knows if we're going to all be together next year. Let's not even think about that. We're all going to be together again soon. But in any case, more stuff is going to go on. And as well with the auction site, Mila in general, because this is going to go on for a bit longer, right?
Yeah, until March 20th.
Yeah, so we're going to, people should, I should mention, keep track of that because we're going to be adding in prizes as they come in as well. So like Sean was gracious enough to donate the prize. There's others who as well have mentioned that they would like to donate some stuff towards the Ice Fest. So I would say keep your eyes open on the auction site because more stuff could be coming in. That is pretty sweet.
Absolutely. And then one more point on that. After the auction site, we may be trying to get it up on our normal website as well so that you can buy them once that auction shuts down.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I should mention though, however, this year, in general, we have gotten an Ice Fest t-shirt every single year, but this year we went with the commemorative sticker instead. For any of you who are wondering, yes, this year we didn't actually print up any t-shirts, so there isn't a 2021 Ice Fest t-shirt, but there's a sticker which you could have on a logo, which you could walk around with your like 35 different t-shirts under there. So yeah, awesome, sweet. Thank you, Mila, for everything. I appreciate it.
No worries.
Cool. So what I'd love to essentially do now at this point, we're getting closer to the end of the evening. I really want to say thank you to everybody who's been here enjoying it with us today, and to all the presenters as well. Quentin Roberts, who started us out with some epic stories chasing his dreams up in the mountains. Then we had Kendra Stritch talking about the making of Ice Line's guidebook. That was a really awesome presentation as well. Followed by Paul McSorely, who talked all about climbing some incredibly big things all over the place. Really awesome stories all around and sharing lots of memories with us. So I'd like to, if I can, bring all of the presenters back in. Oh, hi, Kendra. And if we can get the others as well in here. Yeah. Yo. And Quentin. So you guys have fun?
So fun.
Good time? Yeah. I
Yeah,
want to
thanks
actually
for putting that together.
Oh, my pleasure. All of our pleasure, actually. Myself, Mila, Callie, people that you can't see behind the scenes as well, who some of you know as well, like Kyra. Kendra, you know her quite well down in the US, and Dina Renaud as well, who's not on screen but with us, right next to us. What I want to do is just at the end of your presentation, Paul, there were a couple people shooting in some comments. I just want to pull them in here as well, just so you could see them yourself.
Thanks, Carolyn. We got to have dinner with Marc Andre's family the night before last, and it's always tough seeing them, but they're such lovely people, and it's really a tough thing to lose your son to the mountains, but they're really keeping his spirit going. He was an amazing human. I know I can speak for everybody here, and he definitely inspired us all. Sweet human.
Yeah, I never had the pleasure to hang out with Mark, but I did. I remember one time in Squamish passing by him and recognizing him and just felt the energy. I was like, hey, he's like, yo, perfect. Like that guy. Yeah. And unfortunately, yeah, when he did pass away, it was quite clear how much of an impact he had on anyone that he met and didn't meet, everybody around. So yeah, thank you for that. Brent saying thank you for everybody to the great slideshows. Yeah, so anything else you guys want to chat about? Kendra, I was going to ask if there was one ice climb that you could do in this region. If you're like telling somebody who can do pretty much any climb they want through your experience climbing here, what would be the one climb that you're like, if you're going to Thunder Bay area, you have to do this one climb?
Reflection wall.
Just straight up, here you go for an adventure into the abyss, right?
Yep, and it's just roadside, like it's the most dramatic climb that everybody stops and looks at, and in the easiest of conditions, it's a solid WI5 and long. So yeah, if you can just go do that, that's an amazing one.
Oh yeah.
Thanks to the committee to really keep Ice Fest going. I know it means a lot to our communities here in the upper Midwest of the US to have an Ice Fest up in Northern Ontario, and awesome that the community, you guys up there, could include all of us this year, even though we couldn't make it up.
And thank you, everybody, for being with us today, and for you guys for truly giving those awesome presentations. I love it. And for everybody awesome for chiming in, giving your comments, interacting with us here today. And it's getting close to the evening time, so I think what we're going to do is actually kind of wrap up the live event. We're going to keep things going on after tonight, online and things like that. But yeah, again, I just wanted to say thanks to you guys for being here.
Thanks for the inspiration, Quentin and Paul.
Thank you. Thanks for yours, Kendra. It's great to be here.
Yeah, that was tons of fun. I really enjoyed it. Thanks, all of you.
See y'all soon, I hope.
Yeah, I hope so. So now the next thing that we're actually going to do, let's head back to some trivia quick. And then after that, we're just going to wrap things up. So if you're following along with the trivia, please stay tuned here. Callie will give you a full recap of the questions. Let's see here. Can we get Callie? There we go.
There we go.
Check it. Okay, so some questions.
Yeah. All right. One last round of the questions. So question 1 was, when were crampons invented? Question 2 was, where is Mount Everest? Question 3, where did the first ice climbing competition take place? Question 4, Mount Everest is the tallest mountain in the world. Which mountain is the second tallest? Question 5, successfully ice climbed for the first time in 2019. Canada's highest waterfall is called. And question 6, what year was the first Nipigon Ice Fest held? Question 7, what is the climbing area that makes the Nipigon and Greenstone area a world-renowned ice climbing destination? Question 8. Who revolutionized the design of ice axes in the 1960s? And question 9. Which of these ice climbs at Kama Bay is photographed the most of every year? So that was your 9 questions. Hopefully folks were paying attention. There's some really cool prizes. Submit the forms by 10-ish. And I guess we'll let you go to 10:15 since we're kind of ending up a little bit later than we planned. And we'll let you know in the next few days who won, and I will post the answers that are correct.
Super sweet. Well, big final shout out to Kyra Bremner, who is not here with us tonight on screen, but she is, like I said, always with us. She's been a dedicated member of the Nipigon Ice Climbing Festival in general for many, many, many years. And she as well does a bunch of work down in Duluth for the Ice Festival as well down there. So I want to say thank you for all the help that you do, and as well Dina Renaud, who came on recently to just give us a huge driving force and help in with everything that she does. Super energetic and always out there helping. We are super stoked to have both of them as well with us always here. So I wanted to give a big shout out as well to them. And to all of you, thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here with us live for the Nipigon Ice Fest event. Unfortunately, the reason why we're doing this live, I did think that it was pretty cool in general that we could do this live. But, you know, it's disheartening that we can't all be together and give each other hugs and stuff like that and climb together. But if we just keep on doing what we need to do, then hopefully we'll be through this sooner than later. Vaccines seem to be rolling in at their own pace, so we'll figure that out when the time comes. But I am super stoked that we can hopefully all be together next year. And if not, we'll just do another one of these live events. No, that's not going to happen. We are all going to be together next year. So I want to say thank you. Stay safe out there. Have fun. It's all about climbing, just having a good time. That's what it's all about. And yeah, I'll see you next year.